Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. Today we are going to talk about an issue that directly impacts each one of us. If we are employers or employees or seeking a career, that's the issue that we are going to talk about, is the hiring, recruitment, talent. How do we manage all of it? Whether to apply for a job, how do we write our resume, which company to go for? And each one of us is looking for a better career or career advancement. These are matters which affects us for last as many years you have been working or I have been working. So as a result of which, what happens is that your career decisions are based on what you convey to your employer, what you are, and how you write your resume to submit to a company that you want to join. So these are all issues, and also the matter, how do you select a company to join? What is the hiring challenges that we face? What are the issues that employers face in this current marketplace? To discuss this, I have the great pleasure to welcome Mr. Jitendra Muchhal, who is the CEO and founder of StarLit company, global company, which does technology hire, if I'm correct about that. And welcome to the program, Jitendra ji. And
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure to have you over because you are directly involved in placing people, hiring people. You have run a technology company, built it from, you worked for 9 years to build a company from ground zero to whatever stage you left it at. So we will discuss all that matter. And let's talk about something. What is the real challenge of recruitment and hiring, the world as we see it today, especially in the US context, where unemployment levels are at all-time low? Suddenly, the employees are driving the market, and the employers are looking for people to fill the job. So this is a very interesting dynamics in which it is not up to the whims of the employer, isko hire karo or usko fire karo, but there are no longer good people available to fit the bill. Your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Mr. Jha, for having me here. And you have raised a very interesting and important topic about, the unemployment is as a record low of 3.1, which is the official number that is put out. And definitely for people who are worthy of their skills, there are probably 5 jobs or 5 opportunities waiting for one if they require. So for companies to be able to hire and fill positions for the people that they're looking for, it is extremely difficult and challenging. So I think that's a given. On the other side, there is a little bit of a gray to this entire silver picture, which is sometimes not visible, is that people who are probably on fringe of their career, have been working for last 15 or 20 years, have not updated themselves to whatever technical advancements that have taken place in their field, have become a little rigid in working probably in just one organization or one type of industry. When they try to look for a job, this 3.1% number and 5 jobs for one position probably just kind of disappears. So it's actually becoming a 2-part world where people who have the skills which are currently in demand or have the ability to pick up new skills are extremely in demand. And then on the other side, you have, let's say in industries like retail, which are kind of, going out of business because of the e-commerce and all. Now, if you're working in that kind of industry and now you're coming out, for you to be able to find another suitable job right away is extremely challenging. So if I was in that bucket and I see this 3.1 number, it will be like, okay, somebody is talking of a different place, or where am I in this 3.1?
That's a very, very important observation, because as you grow and spend time in a particular job, the world is not waiting there. It's racing past all of us. And how well we equip ourselves to fit that entire bucket, that if you have worked for 10 or 15 years, how do you find your next change? And that is very important. Now, that preparation is key to your future growth and future success. Now, what I find is that the markets are getting very fragmented. The demand driven by technology is very specific. that you have to know this, you have to know that. Now, I belong to the world of banking and finance. Now, in my world of banking and finance, there has been a tectonic shift that has happened with the cryptos, with the blockchain, all the technologies that came about. Just to familiarize myself with the language of modern finance, which is driven by technology, I did courses with MOOC courses with MIT, Harvard, and Hong Kong University to understand that. But it is important, but you can't be a programmer. I can't be a programmer, but I have to know what these products are doing to make myself relevant. So what, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge that people who have spent 10 or 15 years in the job are looking to change face?
That is actually a very relevant and a very important area that we address and we come across. And because those are people that we can also relate to, because if you've been in a particular company or company, organization, wherever, and it's actually on the flip side, it's a great thing that you were able to, meaning man or woman was able to productively be working for an organization for 10, 12 years. So the organization benefited, you benefited. Now, for whatever reason, if you want to be looking out, 2, 3 things. One, how current are your skills in terms of what the marketplace is looking for? Second, how current are you connected to the marketplace? Like, if you've been working in an organization and you just start doing your stuff and you're doing it very well, but you have no clue where the world is moving, what other people are looking for. And third, which is probably a very simple part, but which is equally difficult, even if you know the number 1 and number 2, how are you going to bring it to action? That, like, how are you going to be looking out for a job? How are you going to be making yourself available in the marketplace? How will people come to know about you? How do you do the interview process? And after not having done for 10, 12, 15 years, because you've been working in an organization, you almost feel it is an alien thing, that we are surprised that we find people that, we didn't make a resume for last 10 years and there is nothing wrong. They were working so effectively for that organization that they were never required to make a resume. And now when they're out, where's your resume? What is your LinkedIn profile? How do you do an interview? What are the keywords do you have? How are you going to apply in an ATS system where you're, this? Do you know this gentleman in the bank? Do you know this person in a technology company? This person is almost overwhelmed that, what was I doing for the last 10, 12 years that all these things seem very alien to me?
That's quite correct, and that's what I was talking about, that to familiarize myself with the new language of banking and finance, I did those courses, and as a result of which, when I attend the crypto seminars or the challenges of blockchain, which is causing a massive shift in payment mechanisms, that you can pay money anywhere, anytime, whoever you wanted to. It's important to understand to be on your toes all the time. Now, how does one restructure the resume for the modern world where the demand is very specific, which is what I find. That today what I find is that when you see a job, and I do the site searches all the time, is to understand what's happening. The listing of the job requirements is so tenuous, so tough, that for a person to be having all those skills is virtually impossible. And particularly when everything is online. If you don't fit in, what is the extent to which the employer looks at the fitment part? That if this guy is 70% fit, okay, then you're okay to, fine, 30% I will learn. What is your experience on that? Do people fit into the job descriptions the way they come out?
So I will just pick on one line that you said about restructuring your resume. I think the bigger challenge is restructure myself. So we have to first restructure ourselves, because a resume is going to be a reflection of what we are going to be doing. Now, coming to the fact of, the resume or your profile matching to the job requirement, yes, it is very difficult. So that's a plain fact, because if the job employer would want, in whatever the economic situation, he or she would like to have the maximum skills available in one individual. So when the list of expectations that they would have from a person in the job list is very high. it is definitely very difficult to be able to find that one individual who is going to fit 80% of that. And then even if you find that individual also has to be agreeable, because he or she may be having 5 other job opportunities. And not every company has the ability to just pay more money or give more perks to be able to hire the people. What I have realized, that smart employers are keeping their job list, not compromising on every factor, but making sure that as long as the must to have elements are there as far as skills, and most important, something which cannot be changed is the attitude, is the passion, is the desire of that individual to learn and work. You just taking, let's say, your example, and let's assume that you were, looking for, you don't have to, but you were looking, and you mentioned to that organization that, I am a banker, I've worked in the past. To keep myself abreast, I have been attending these courses, and if you like, we can have a 5-minute discussion about blockchain. I will not be able to do any programming, but I think I will be able to make sense how blockchain is going to relate to banking, what I profess to do. A smart hiring manager will be able to figure out that if Mr. Jha was able to go to 5 courses, learn about blockchain, he has the capability that if I wanted him to learn 5 more things, he will put the industry behind it and be able to learn it. Because whatever is, let's say blockchain is here today, sir. 3 years later or 5 years later, it will be something A, B, C, which we don't even know the name of. An employer cannot hire the person just based on what he knows today. Does he or she have the ability to keep learning as we go along, or whatever emerges is what is going to be the differentiator?
That's a very powerful thing, but that's my favorite thing. So any employer who is listening to me today, I have done blockchain at my young age of after 30 years of working. I have done blockchain, I have done crypto. And believe it or not, when I share with you here today, you will be also surprised that one of the biggest learning that I came out of this entire program that I did was that the essential elements and challenges remain the same.
Right.
The trust in the system, transparency in the transactions, liquidity of doing things, and the ability to grasp and make it work for others. That remains the same. You address that issue by saying that you have to have passion, you have to be the learner. And that comes a very powerful quote. I don't exactly remember, but it says that in the times of change, the learned become history. The learner runs the future. So that's important part, that if you are just learned and having a knowledge part, you become history. If the continuous learner, that becomes. Now that brings about a very important question. And that question is dear to me. You said also, reinvent yourself. And that is the thing which I did in my life, and I'm very happy to share that with you, is that you have to eventually, when you do your resume writing, and correct me if I'm wrong, or, and let me know if I'm saying the right thing, is that you have to continuously evolve. And you have to continuously redefine. So in my work life, I did what is popularly known as the 7-year itch in my work life. Always come back to yourself to define, this is what I did, this is who I am. So taking my example, it's unfair, but I will share that, is that you have to kind of figure out, okay, I was doing this,
right,
but what was the actual stuff going on?
Right.
So I was vice president of X, director in Y, but what was I actually doing? So when you highlight those skills, that I'm a problem solver, I'm a learner, and I will try everything to make something happen, that's what the employers like a lot, because technology can change tomorrow. Environment can change tomorrow. So share with us and the audience, the youngsters or mid-levels or 15, 20 years of work experience, how does one arrive at his own strengths, the learning that he has in the job, and where in the job it ought to be said?
So I think first thing, if you look at, we talked about the resume. So an employer is essentially trying to hire an individual, a man or a woman, for the work that is going to happen, that is in the future. The resume is your story of the past. So an employer is trying to derive your strengths and your abilities and maybe also your weaknesses and how it fits in that organization's needs for the time of the future. So when you are trying to convey that, okay, these are the projects that I handled, this is the team that I was working in a 5-people team, and then I was able to manage a 7-people team, and this is what we were able to accomplish. These were the challenges that we faced. An employer is trying to extrapolate that, okay, if this individual was able to do this thing here, and then he also had an overseas assignment, and he went to a country where he did not know the language, the laws were not known, but he was able to establish the business there. Now, we may have a new business opportunity in our business. Can we take this individual and can he be entrusted or can she be entrusted with the responsibility of setting up that new division? That individual has proven traits in the past of being able to do it. So there is a reasonable amount of chances. The employer will also try to see that, okay, if the past they did in a particular industry, is their current industry related to that was there, or what are the traits and elements that can be picked up from there? We can see many examples of people like, and let's take, stalwarts of the Indian origin. So, MasterCard CEO, Mr. Banga, he was not in the payments industry before this job. He was in the consumer goods industry. But because the organization must have seen that he has the capability of handling large global challenges, they entrusted him with the responsibility.
And that's the point which I'm trying to talk to you about is that when 10, 15 years of your time spent in a particular job, how often have you experienced that the person realizes that I can do something else much better than this? And does the career transition mean that you can try another industry? So for example, I was never in television.
Correct.
Never did that, but it happened by chance. And I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it more than I did banking, although I was very good at banking as well. So the question is that how do you make a career transition? Because that 10 to 15 year time period is the critical one for the next shift in life. Because you have already, if you started your job at 25, right. Let's say 25, right. And you are 35 and right. 40, you are already in right. a midlife crisis. Right. Because now everybody is looking at you stabilizing. Yes. People want stability, continuity, and all that. So how does a career shift happen? How often have you experienced that the person that you were hiring or teaching or training was actually much better at doing something else than what he was doing?
Okay, so the first answer, that how easy the career transition, simple word answer, very tough.
Right.
And I'm saying it in so many simple words and not trying to sugarcoat it, because you do tend to get set in a particular mold of a particular industry, environment, working style. Mm-hmm. And while you have the itch, whether the 7-year or the 14-year, the routine or the inertia, and if you go back to law of physics or wherever, to come out of the gravitational pull of what is going around, you really need a very strong booster rocket. The booster rocket can be your own inside. The booster rocket can also be an external environment which forces you to do this. The first one is much better. The second one is painful, but unless you have a very strong pull to counter the gravitational pull of the regular what is going on, whether the industry or the kind of work that you're doing, it is definitely not the career transition is definitely not an easy one. Now coming to the point of reinventing yourself, I think you talked about that. How do you know that from a banker you could become a television person, right? Two things happen. You probably were able to open yourself to avenues, right? You probably said that, okay, I will try this, and maybe somebody mentioned and you gave it a shot and it happened. The other one, which is where you can be more lucky, is a company or mostly your manager or your leader is able to see that spark in you. And I have often seen, Mr. Jha, that whether it is corporations or whether it is even political organizations or sports organizations, you would often find that, and again, going to our movies, lovely movies, Lagan, it needed a Amir Khan Bhuvan to be able to spot that there is a kachra who can bowl a googly and will be able to win the match at the most crucial element. Now, unless the kachra would not have known, the others around him did not know, and they were almost despising him, but there was this leader or the manager who was able to take the spark and also give it a shot that, okay, I am ready to bet my bets on Kachra that he will do the phenomenal thing. You see in cinema, you see in companies. If you see a startup company, the CEO does not have the ability, founder, to hire all those people of specific skills. He just says, okay, this is a passionate person, let's hire him. 10 years later, you find that they were hired to be doing like office maintenance, and now they are the supply chain head of the global corporation.
Now you hit upon a very favorite thing of mine, and we will talk about that in our next segment right after this short break. Welcome back. Jitendra ji mentioned about startups. Now that's a very interesting phenomenon the world is experiencing right now. The world itself is becoming a startup world. I mean, if you go to the marketplace, I have seen a whole lot of young men and women starting companies because they have ideas and they have tools to make it happen. But not necessarily that they have everything to happen, nor that they know that that beyond the product, their knowledge becomes little scarce. So they are looking for all kinds of people. And I recall a very famous engineer from India who I know very well. He told me when I began to feel that I was becoming irrelevant to the marketplace because of technology, he said, even the startups will need brick and mortar. So stay in the field. So that's the point which I'm trying to make to you, that how advantageous it is for people to be ambitious, talking about the positivity of the mood, because the real growth story lies in the startups.
Right.
So how do 10, 15-year work experience people join a startup? And they will definitely not get paid that kind of money. But that's where assessment of that technology or the process and the people who are doing it can make a career transition. That can happen. Have you come across these scenarios where experienced people have gone and joined a startup and made a difference?
Yes. So if, alluding again to cinema, if you must have heard about this movie called The Intern, where, our 70-year-old individual goes and joins a startup and initially has a lot of challenges because the pace, the kind of work, the interpersonal relationships of the people. But by the end of the movie, he is able to provide valuable insight that the young people don't have. Coming to the point of how easy it is for a person, in the middle of the career to be able to go and join a startup. First and foremost, the challenge comes in is that a startup also means a very risky venture. What I have often come across is that many individuals want to have the excitement possibility of the startup, have the future earning potential, because everybody reads about a company going 10x and unicorn status and making money and all that. But when they also hear that, after 3 months or 6 months, this company shut down and they were not able to pay that kind of salary, or, the things were different, they balk back. So you really have to have, not just because, okay, startup is the exciting thing to do, but you really have to have that innate desire in yourself to be able to work in that kind of an enterprise. And also, so now let's be practical, that if I'm a 15-year-old career person, as a man or a woman, I may be having financial responsibilities. So I cannot put everything at stake. I may have children, I may have other responsibilities. I cannot put everything at stake and just join a venture and take it as a risk element, because I have commitments. So here is what we often suggest to such individuals. Okay, you may not be able to join a startup, but you still have some passionate idea. How about trying to work on that idea on your extra time? Try to develop it slowly. Maybe it takes shape enough that while your continuous regular job is going on, you have your income coming, you develop this idea to a point and you experience the startup environment and feeling. If this takes off, you can move on from here. And if this does not take off, you have not jeopardized your basic nest egg.
No, one of the biggest things that happens in a startup scenario, that most of the people are young people, and 15 to 20 years of work experience of somebody, people can always say, I know what I'm doing. And the guy who has come up with the idea and he's trying to implement that idea, be it in technology or whatever, he knows what he's trying to do. So there is a very interesting scenario with startups. Is there a fit and a match between a mid-level guy who is looking at a startup and the startup? Where does he get the people to do if everybody becomes cautious about it? Because you are very right about that. The people who can actually contribute to a startup have done 15, 20 years of work.
Right.
And they are already in the mid-age life of theirs. Can they really shirk off their responsibility and support a startup? Where does the startup go to find the talented people?
Yeah, so this is a conundrum where startups do try to, so it's the most classic example. Let's say a startup reaches a particular size, they also get some kind of funding. Now they want to expand their sales and technology. So obviously they have this challenge that, let's go out and hire a VP of sales from a very large enterprise of our business. Again, take example of retail. Okay, I have a startup which was an e-commerce company, in shoes, and it has taken off. Now we want to have a VP of sales. Okay, can I go and hire a VP of sales from Reebok? I have the advantage because my company is growing very fast. So I have the excitement that I may be able to attract a person. Maybe the traditional companies are also finding it challenging. So that element is there. But it is the work culture and the pace at which things are moving here and the pace at which the things that move here. We have found it is not to say that it is not possible, but we have found that both sides have to make a lot of efforts, and especially the individual, because company is much bigger. The individual has to really make himself or herself fit into this mold and this idea very strongly that they are able to leave their past. Vibhuti ji would be surprised. We have had situations where people have not taken up a job offer because the office environment and the new place was very open, and they wanted the startup, they wanted the excitement, but they said, we will become too overwhelmed. We are used to working in a cubicle or a space of. We have this actual scenarios we've had where everything went well, and the individual said, no, I would not be able to join because it's too overwhelming for me.
Right, and technology is a major leveler.
Yes.
And it's a major leveler in terms of the fact that, what technology brings unexpected things to you. So let's take an example of AI. It's a story of the future, or genome research,
yes,
gene sequencing. Now, these are businesses of the future.
Right.
Now, not many people are trained in it. Not people know about it. Only we have all heard the word AI. How soon or how much time it will take for people to get really well about AI and genome sequencing, as we know. But the important part is technology itself evolves very fast. So are we going to be up to date with AI, or the problems will remain the same?
Okay, so let's take this question in a reverse, going backwards. Okay. The people who were flying aeroplanes, which were the winged aeroplanes, when the jet aeroplanes came in, the aircrafts came in, what happened? Did they all just vanish away and there was a new breed of pilots, and now you have transcontinental jets, and now you have the space aircrafts? What has happened to the previous generation? Let's take automobiles. People were driving cars of a particular style, and now the cars have moved on. You're finding, and you're probably hitting to the driverless cars. I think on the short term, the onslaught of technology does look threatening, frightening. But if we look back how things have evolved, let's say I don't think, let's say just New York City, simple example, metro cards used to be, the coins used to be there, and now you have metro cards. Now on the tollways, you used to have the coins. Now most places you just have Easy Pass, and probably you will just do away with coins. Have people stopped, transitioning? Have people stopped? I think everybody or people do evolve to the new environment. We just have to give it time. When it is very close, it looks very threatening. But when you look at a longer span of time, yes, there will be casualties. I'm not saying that. Right. People in some particular industries will definitely lose jobs. Right. People in particular industries are losing jobs today also. If you are in retail because of the onslaught of Amazon or things like that, they are losing their jobs.
Right, right. Oh, the human ability to adjust to new environment is just about phenomenal. And we all do. And the challenge here is the speed. The speed of technology is so fast. That's what threatens people actually, the speed. that's what is important. So with this, we will end this segment. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this short break. Welcome back. Let's talk about a different challenge that the entire employer-employee situation evolves around, is the role of the recruiter. What is the employer? What are the challenges the recruiter faces? Is AI going to make a recruiter obsolete? What do you think about that?
Two-part
challenges the recruiter faces today
yes.
in today's world where talent is, everybody has a job.
Yes.
And the challenge, second one is AI and technology will make the recruiter obsolete.
Yes. So some parts of the job of a recruiter, like any other industry, will probably be taken away by AI, but I don't see it as a threat. I see it as an empowering to whoever is in the talent acquisition function, whether they work externally or whether they work in a company. So for example, if there is an AI bot that is there to be able to scan resumes much quicker and much faster, and if you're a large company which is getting hundreds of resumes for the multiple positions, any human being would not be able to read or go through them properly. If there are AI tools which can at least scan and get you down to the top 5% of the people for that particular role, which a human being will take hours to do it, and an AI bot or a system can do it in seconds and minutes. Now what that does is the recruiter can be focusing on more value-added job of talking to that individual about why they should consider this company. That part an AI cannot be doing because it is a human being to human being connection. That individual already has a job, is very happy, but I want to tell him the story that this is what's happening in this company. We are going to be creating an impact in this particular telecom environment, or we are creating a new app, or we are coming with new battery technology, or we are working on a simple thing which will be used for all electric cars. Now this story an AI cannot tell. An AI can probably show a video. An AI can probably show a person that how other people are looking. But this human being to human being connection is going to be required to be done by an individual. Now, if a lot of my time for looking through the profiles or looking through the resumes and finding those individuals is taken up by the machine, leaving me much more time to have the value-added discussions with the individuals. So it's actually a plus in some senses. But yes, if the only role of the recruiter was to sift through resumes, then yes, that recruiter can call themselves confronted. Let's take the example which is not of recruitment, but let's say one area where AI is going to impact very quickly is customer service. Now people can say that, okay, if the bot is going to answer everything, then why do you need customer service person? I look at it this way, that the bot can help take away 90% of the routine work of a customer service individual, leaving them to do the 10% value added stuff which they can provide a client, which today they are so overwhelmed with the regular stuff that they are not able to answer the critical parts.
That the sound of the human voice across the customer service makes a huge amount of difference. Technology cannot do everything. It really facilitates a lot of action. But the value-added proposition remains the key, because in our earlier segment we talked about that whether you are a learner, whether you are trustworthy, whether you can do things that you have learned and implement it, the values that you bring to that occupation, that job, the requirement to yourself and to the company becomes key. So going forward, when you write your resume, decipher very clearly as to who you are and what do you bring to the job on hand or the company at hand, and what are they looking for. Eventually, everything boils down to those psychological dimensions of a person, because right, as you said, AI will never be able to replace the human touch. And as the saying goes, you need the human touch to make things happen. So let's talk about the number one challenge that a recruiter is facing in today's market in seeking talent. Because I know one thing for sure, that there are so many people available,
yes,
willing to do things, that it's difficult to find out who fits the bill. And the market fragmentation, people can be working, sitting in New York or working in California or Kadapa in Andhra Pradesh or Chennai, wherever it is. So how does the global scenario, how does the global village address the challenge of employability from one market to another?
So let's look at the positive side of it. So because of social media, and especially social media tools, one being LinkedIn, it has become very easy for both the employer and the employee to be visible to the marketplace globally. So a recruiter, a company or a recruiter can be sitting in New York and at this point may be working on a requirement of filling up a position that they have in China, and they will have visibility to the people as long as they have the language capabilities to be able to have the visibility of people in China who may be eligible for that role. They have the background of those individuals, they have the track record of those individuals, and it is all available via the social media tools. So on one side, the gap has been bridged. So it's all one global village of recruitment or talent that is available and possible. The other side of it is, now because it is a global talent pool, as an employer, you are always also threatened that now your smart people, if they are not well challenged and they are not fully occupied and engaged, they can be looking at a job opportunity anywhere. So, the tools have made it available for the person. For a recruiting company or for a company corporate, when they are trying to look for the talent, it again comes down to the word, we use this word very often, and it is called as fitment. And then that can be extended as that cultural fitment. So okay, you found that okay, this person knows, again we take programming, this person knows this programming skill, they also did a test and they passed that test. So that's the easy part. Okay, so he or she knows those skills that we are looking for. Now comes the tricky part, that the way they were using that skill in their previous environment, the kind of team that they have, the kind of infrastructure that was provided to them versus and the expectations of delivery in their previous organizations versus now what is going to be required. It can be slower, it can be faster. How is this individual going to be able to transpose his skills in this environment? Do we see a fitment? It is not, any individual is not ill-equipped and all that. Is that individual fitting to a particular organization?
That is my favorite topic actually, because fitment is key, identifying the exact requirement, the culture fit. Coming from the world of banking and finance, we know that in mergers and acquisitions, for example, there is a Wall Street joke that your odds are better in Vegas than in a mergers and acquisition situation, because 70% of M&As do not deliver the end result.
Right.
So that being the situation, the cultural fit, the attitudinal fit is key. So in your experience of things, how do you make sure that you are able to capture the quality and essence in the candidate's resume? And have you been able to address a bad hire? How often has it happened, and what did you do about that?
When you say a bad hire, what does that mean?
Didn't fit, or he had made claims that they were not valid, or the company expectation changed between he hired, and he became a misfit in the whole environment. How does that situation get handled? Fire?
The answer is the answer to that is all the above. So yes, there are situations where the company situation changes. There are situations where even if the candidate does not misrepresent, he feels that he may be able to work in a particular environment, but when he actually starts working in that environment, he finds that he or she is not a fit for that. And third, the company felt also that this person has the capability and they really went for it, but they were probably also not in unison. Fourth also that comes in, which is often not, that within the company also are all the stakeholders agreed that what are we looking for. We often find a situation where if there are 4 people in a hiring panel and if we talk to each of them individually, sometimes we are finding that each person is actually looking for a different thing from the individual who is going to fill that role. So sometimes it is not even the gap of the individual not having the skills, it is the expectations gap between what the company is looking. And these are these are all normal day-to-day challenges. There is no common way to address it. You can only try to mitigate it. So let's say if you had an instance of, okay, 4 people not agreeing on something, next time around you try to have all 4 in a panel where they commonly agree on their points, their challenges, and then go about it. Many large organizations in public domain, it is known that when they hire an individual, the individual is not hired by people who are going to be working with him, but a separate team that hires him. Companies like Amazon have something called as a bar raiser. So there is an individual in the panel who is not going to look at any technology, any even fitment, but just trying to see that by adding this person in a team, even if he's a lifter in their store at, in their fulfillment center, will he actually raise the bar of Amazon by 1 inch? If he or she is not raising the bar raiser can say, sorry, we don't want to hire this.
No, that's remarkably important, because everybody has to contribute, and you have to define the element of contribution that lifts, that makes a shift.
Yeah.
Now, you earlier referred to the LinkedIn and social media and the conversation on these days, nothing is secret. And this country, United States particularly, always took pride in the comeback kid.
Yes.
This country loves that people staged a comeback. But I see a rising level of intolerance seeping in, and thanks to technology. And one of the interesting cases was that recently, when there was a major racial fight between a young man and a local native, and that became a global scenario where entire television media got into a war. This young man applied to Harvard University, and sometime they found on social media that he had posted a message that was detrimental to racial peace, and they declined him admission in Harvard. Now the question arises is that technology ends up hurting people, doesn't give them a chance to say that, hey, I was young, I was restless, and I made mistakes. So are we heading towards a scenario in which we suppress our internal feelings and we appear very nice and smiley when deep inside I'm angry and annoyed and I want to kill you? But I can't do that, because if I say that, then I have attributed with tendencies that they will say detrimental to workplace. Now that is very important. I have a right to change. We all change. None of us are perfect. We evolve. We have changed what we were different in. Like Indore changed.
Right.
From being the dirtiest city in the world, in India, it is #1 cleanest city in the country. So do you think Indore deserves a reward or award, or people have a right to change? Should we be more acceptable of deficiencies in people? Yeah, we may have said things on the website or on our social media. Should that be held against a person if you hire it?
Yeah. So coming to Indore, yeah, we were not the dirtiest, but we were.
No, I'm just giving you an example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think there is no clear answer. You have a very valid point that a mistake that was made either by design or by default many years back is going to reflect on my career and all that. But again, taking that to examples of other delinquencies that happen, let's say financial misdemeanor of any kind that we have had, or anything. We have actually had a situation where this is a real instance where a person went in at a very large financial corporation. They were selected. The day they joined, they were told that your background check of X years back showed something which is not in line with this organization's. So the hiring manager or anybody does not have any discretion about it. That individual said, I don't even remember when that happened, and but they said, look, it is on your records and it is staying with it. So that is a part of technology, that our trails, good or otherwise. And I'm not even saying good, because expressing your feeling good is not a good or bad thing. It is your own feeling, and you are just expressing it.
Correct.
But it may have a connotation, and organizations, as long as they are abiding by the laws of the land, that they are not discriminating on something which is not prohibited by law, they have the right to choose who they want to offer a position.
That's I do not know what to say to this, because it's a very ticklish situation. We are not living in the world where old patterns continue, but things have changed and technology has forced a change whether we like it or not. And it's going to become even more serious as we go forward. Before we close, and as we are coming to a close of the time, what I wanted to ask you is, what do you see is the three most prominent areas of new employment where the employment opportunities are going to explode, and what people like me or anybody else 10, 15 years ought to get ready for?
Okay, so
In
the
1
first,
minute.
yes,
Yeah.
so the first one for sure is something to do with electric vehicles, battery technology, electric powered, not just vehicles, but electric powered machines or mechanism. That's for sure. It is there. It is going to explode very fast. It is going to be what solar was 5-10 years back. Second is formats of artificial intelligence. How they will be implemented, we don't know, but definitely for sure. And third is some format, a combination of blockchain and probably not that much of cryptocurrency, but blockchain being used in transactions across organizations.
Thank you very much. Like every conversation has to come to an end. I really enjoyed it because this was very useful. I hope you did too. Thank you, Jitendra ji, for sharing your thoughts and coming to the studio today.
Thank you, Vibhuti.
Have a great weekend and see you again next week.
Thank you very much.